Music brings us together, even when we're apart. That's why we support Canadian musicians, festivals, and award shows. It's just one of the ways TD's Ready commitment helps build a more inclusive tomorrow.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to TD Mosaic Noon Talk. I'm Asma Mahmood, Artistic Director for Canadian Community Arts Initiative, home for TD Mosaic Festival, Rock the Coliseum Indie Music Festival, and MISAF Film Festival. I would like to thank all our sponsors, Greenwich Health Products and Laziz Shawarma. TD is our presenting partner, and we are very grateful for the support that we get from Ontario Arts Council, Canada Council, Factor Canada, Heritage Canada, and Canadian Heritage, and City of Mississauga Culture Division. Thank you very much for helping us celebrate 15th anniversary of TD Mosaic Festival. We are also celebrating 15th anniversary of Rock the Coliseum, and our online festival will be there for you to enjoy on 7th and 8th of August. Visit our website for Rock the Coliseum, and you'll get all the details of the fabulous bands that are going to perform for our festival. For this time, I am so excited because today my guest is one of those people who I learned so much from. I learned festivals from him. He was instrumental in getting me my first job on a festival with him. And he is none other than Abhishek Mathur from the famed, wonderful festival, Masala Mehndi Masti. So before I get you and to meet Abhishek Mathur, we have a small clip. Let's see that. Welcome to TD Mosaic Noon Talk, Abhishek Mathur. How are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm thrilled to be with you, Appa. It's good to be face to face.
Oh my! It's been a while. There's so many things that are happening. The world has changed in these couple of months, and a lot of things we are learning how to re-see, re-watch, revisit. So how has everything been with you sitting in Dubai? What are you up to right now?
It's certainly been an eye-opener. Nobody expected this to happen, and even if it did, no one would have known how to have dealt with it. So I think we've been patient. I think the way the leadership and the government here has operated and managed the situation has been pretty incredible. The great thing is that everybody listens, everyone wants to make it better, and they're all in it together. And so everyone is as responsible as the other. So we've beaten the curve. Numbers have gone down, but it is, needless to say, Dubai runs on tourism, hospitality. It's a transportation hub, and events and entertainment are its backbone, and all of that is at a standstill at the moment, with little sort of flickers of hope and events beginning to restart. So there's a lot of excitement. There's a general buzz that things will start coming back to some level of normality or normalcy, and we're hoping sooner the better, of course.
Absolutely. It's the same here in Canada. Everything is on a complete shutdown, and the numbers, of course, have gone down, and we are being very responsible in facing this situation. But just across the border, things are not so good. So it's we have a lot of tourism from across the border, and we do have the numbers of course have gone down, and all the provinces are trying that people should do inter-province travel more, and so that will be, I think that is the setup for here for us for this year. But Abhishek, your journey into the world of arts and culture and entertainment has been a long one. I mean, you still look as young as I first saw you. You're still my little baby brother. But tell me something, how did this journey start for you? Because in 2001, when I met you for the first time, you had already started Masala Mehndi Masti. How is the process? I mean, what made you do that? Because I had never knew about any other festival. Of course, there was Des Pardes going on, but Des Pardes had a very different vibe to it. And so what initiated this thing with you?
So can backtrack a little bit. My journey to Canada was as a student, and I came as a young 18-year-old, went straight into university. And I think my biggest culture shock was the Desi community. And it was a shock in that, coming from having lived in the UK, India, and the UAE, particularly boarding school in India, I mean, there was a level of, I guess, knowledge of the world, a broad-mindedness that we came out of. And when I came to Canada, with all due respect and no fingers being pointed at anyone or any community, we seemed very insular and very, very sort of keeping to ourselves. And that really bothered me. And I'm talking about 1990, which is when I started my Canadian journey. That's many, many years ago. And I think that culture shock is what made me get very involved with the Indian Student Association at my university. Initially, I figured, Desis are Desis, wherever you go, you don't really need to make that extra effort. But I really felt I needed to. And so I got very involved with it was called the UIS at York University. Made some of my closest, dearest friends back then, and got very involved in the cultural shows and the cultural productions that we produced as a student club, as an ethnic student club.
Yeah, and you danced as well at that time.
Oh my God, I did everything. It was crazy. I never would have done that back in India, but I danced, I sang, I produced the shows, I directed stuff, I choreographed. But there was so much talent. There was so much talent in that generation of youngsters who wanted to keep their desiness at home or within their own community, and were never really ready to put it on the map or put it on a mainstream platform or on a mainstream stage. So after coming out of university, having worked in a few sort of regular corporate roles, I went back, did my master's in arts and media management at York as well, did an MBA there. And that's when I figured, you know what, why is it that our culture is not on every FM station, every TV show, why are we missing? We're such a visible part of the community, such a visible part of Canada, but we just seem to have missed the mark, or we just don't get noticed. I mean, we had trailblazers like Monica Diol, who was on Much Music well before many South Asian faces were regular on Canadian media. But they were those, those special sparks that we had few and far between of. So I actually created Panorama India, which is still a functioning festival, and it was something that I had.
So you founded Panorama India as well? Oh my gosh!
Here.
Okay. Here, hello. There is this very big innovation which I didn't know. I knew that you were working with them, but I didn't know that you started it. So that Panorama India is a very big platform now, and Sumita Ahuja works there, and so many people from your team work there.
Sumita, a dear friend who was also a part
of the chair notice.
Yeah. So Panorama was one of the projects that I'd gone to the community at large with to say, let's do a festival. Let's put aside our differences. The Bengalis do the Bengali thing, the Punjabis do the Punjabi thing, the Tamils do the Tamil thing, and so on and so forth. And at that time, I was still, I had a utopian idea of how everyone can come together. And I think it worked in many ways. I did it for a year.
Yeah.
And then the consulate took over the following year. But that's when we we realized that as Canadians, we need to be South Asian Canadians if we're going to label ourselves as anything, and not Indian, not Pakistani, not Bangladeshi, not Trini, not Guyanese. We have a common thread, a common culture, a common heritage that has evolved and has become so incredibly diverse within itself and outside of itself.
How hard was it for you to come up with Masala Mehndi Masti? What was the biggest challenge that you feel that stood in front of you?
I think the biggest challenge was our own community, and again, with all due respect, the older generation that had done so much, and for so many years they were the torchbearers of our culture. They're the ones who were ensuring that we didn't lose our roots or didn't lose sight of our roots. But in maintaining just the classical arts and just the formal traditional arts, we were not giving due importance or due recognition to folk arts, contemporary arts, fusion music, Bhangra hip hop that was all the rage back in the day, especially in the UK. And it was often trivialized. It was often not respected enough to be a part of our culture.
Oh my God. I heard hip hop, Desi hip hop for the first time at Masala Mehndi Masti. There were so many first times for me at Masala Mehndi Masti. I remember you brought that group from Shillong choir.
Yes,
unbelievable. I fell in love with them. And there were so many things that I saw for the first time because I had come from Pakistan in 99. And for me, this was the introduction to an entire new form and genre of music and dance and culture, which really you don't get exposed to in when you're sitting in Pakistan. So thank you so much for all that. That was incredible. Yeah, I'm telling you, there's so many Mathurs right now who are listening to you and loving you and sending you love. Rashmi Mathur is there, Anita Mathur is there, Sumit Ahuja has always been a Mathur. And Arshad Khan is there. Oh my God! So everybody is sending love, and Clint Valaderas will be joining us as well. Yeah. So, all right. Anita Mathur says he stated that he couldn't dance back in 1990, then cleared the floor with his talent. My brother, love you.
No, I think what was amazing about what we did, and we did it collectively. We didn't compete. We didn't aim to compete with any other organization. There was SAVAC, there was Salco, there was Filmi. We had partners in Bharati Kalamanaram, and then there was. So the aim of the festival was to bring people together and create an umbrella without taking away from everything that they had done for so many years. Kalanidhi, the dance festival, Thakkar, and
the theater companies and so many things.
So we aim to bring people together, bring organizations together, and give them that platform where all genres of art and culture could be presented. And very importantly, we wanted to do it downtown Toronto. So it was visible, not just for our own community, but for everyone else, especially at a place like Harbourfront Centre, where people walk through not knowing what they're going to experience, because it's a special public space. And that was our birthplace. We started there because of that. We wanted that walk-through traffic, the walk-up traffic, to just come and stumble upon us if they weren't looking for us.
You guys were the first festival there before, other than the jazz festival that they started, because they had recently opened the whole venue. They had redone the whole place and everything. And I think you guys put the whole damn thing on map. And they never got that kind of audience and that kind of response after you guys moved to see it into the exhibition place grounds. And I feel so sad about that, because it never got that kind of South Asian verb or that kind of inclusivity that we saw at Masala Mehndi Masti. So tell me something. Your education. You have a MBA from York University, my university. I went after you, but I went there. So, how much was your education contributing towards the festival when you organized it?
I think in terms of, literal schoolwork and academic involvement or knowledge that I gained from York, it was all, we didn't really specifically study how to build a festival and how to create a festival. But I guess the nuances of production, the intricacies of dealing with artists, budgeting, and then dealing with funders and organizations and government entities, it was all a part of what I learned. But I don't think I would have ever learned to do what we did without being on the ground. And with Jyoti, who was the co-founder of the festival, we used to, we would brainstorm ideas off of each other. We both had very similar passion and drive and desire to see our culture on the map. And I think because of gelling, there was one thing that we gelled in. Because we gelled on that front, we were able to come up with a vision. And even the name, the festival name, we were told, overheard in passing with some senior member of the community saying, "Oh, they call our culture a mix of masalas. How derogatory is that?" And we both thought, hey, that's actually brilliant, because masalas, we're a variety of spices from different parts of South Asia and beyond.
Yeah.
So that word has to be in our festival name. So we actually went against the grain, and we named it. Literally in 3 minutes, we came up with a few words that we liked and put exclamation marks, and we're like, there we go, we got a story. Masala means variety and spice. Mehendi is, the art form and
the color.
And culture, and then masti means either fun or mischief, and why shouldn't we be mischievous? Why should we always be straitjacket, formal, and we wanted to be fun.
So the journey of Masala Mehendi Masti and the relationship with Jyoti, you guys were already married when you started Masala Mehendi Masti?
Yes, we were. In fact, Panorama India is where I reconnected with Jyoti. I knew Jyoti from university days.
Okay.
She was actually in high school, and I was in university. So I was a very careful friend, and she has her own version to the story. But we finally reconnected after many years, and it's at Panorama India where she joined forces with me, and I eventually was representing Harbourfront for the festival.
Wow.
Having initiated the whole thing. And then she joined the team, and she and I basically put the event together with a wonderful team of volunteers and Harbourfront Centre staff. But on the last day of that event, at the reception at City Hall is where we decided to get engaged.
Amazing. How wonderful. So Masala Mehendi Masti has its own story, a love story as well behind it. So that's wonderful. And you know what you guys were able to do. Smita Dayal just mentioned that you guys crossed 100,000 visitors to MMM back then. Do you know that today we cannot even claim that in any festival that happens, all South Asian festivals, we don't get 100,000 people. So that was a great achievement. You were sitting right there, and we are sitting in the hubs of South Asians. Like Mississauga, Brampton, we don't get that kind of audience, which you got in Toronto, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So,
but I'll tell you why. And it's not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing. The numbers are one thing, and yes, they were great. But I think we were at the time the only festival of its size and scale and range in terms of what we programmed. Today, I'm thrilled that Mosaic is so successful. There's Desi Fest, there's Bollywood Mashup, and everyone is coexisting. Everyone is in the same 50 square kilometer radius.
Absolutely. It makes me happier for us, because then the government agencies realize that there is so many South Asian activities happening, so that means they need funding. So how was the challenge of funding for you when you were doing Masala Mehendi?
A nightmare. It was honestly, maybe we were naive at the time. We were young in terms of knowing how to work the system. We didn't come from an arts background per se, so we hadn't written grants before. And I will tell you this very candidly and very honestly, with some of the grants that we tried to get, the support in writing the grants, how to write the grants from the grants bodies just wasn't there. And in fact, we felt at times that they were trying to not grant us funds and they were doing everything that they could so that we wouldn't get funding. I won't go into who, when, how, what, but it was a struggle, and therefore we started to rely more and more on corporate funds because it was so much easier. I think corporate entities at that time, like General Motors, Toyota, State Farm, Mobility even, Omni, Toronto Star, they all saw the value in the South Asian community, and they were willing to, and they were ready to. Oh, Tim Hortons, another wonderful sponsor. They were all ready to support the initiative and support the community. But I'll tell you, we were interviewed by Toronto Star, I think in our second year, and they said, "What's your long-term vision for MMM?" And I remember Jyoti and I saying, after 10 years, it shouldn't be necessary. We should be so much a part of regular Canadian culture or regular Canadian programming, whether it's television or radio or film, news, that festivals like this should not be required. But you know what? It's wonderful that they exist still, and I think it's a testament to what you're doing and what they're doing at Desi Fest and Bollywood Mashup and everybody else, all the other smaller festivals that happen in between.
Absolutely, because now it's become so important because all the cities have their own funding areas, and also it's really become huge. Mosaic remains the first festival. We are the oldest festival in Celebration Square in Mississauga.
Yes,
but
I remember.
Yeah, but I know that everything we did with Mosaic was with inspiration from Masala Mehndi Masti. Everything we picked it up from there, and that was the idea, that we want to create something which has we aspired to be a Masala Mehndi Masti. Because it was, for us, that was the benchmark. So, and it remains the benchmark. But when you moved to Dubai. What happened? Why do you think you could not continue with MMM? What was the biggest challenge?
So when we moved to Dubai, we still did MMM for another 6 years. We moved to Dubai in 2005, and we came back. I think we learned how to get more government support, the grants bodies and the funders. Also, either they warmed up to us, or they realized that we were true to what we said we would do and what we were committed to do. So I would say for the first few years while we struggled, and as I was saying, we may have been naive as to how to go about it. Our next few years, it became not easier, but we figured out how to present what we were committing ourselves to presenting to these funders, to the government granting bodies, and to sponsors as well. So in that sense, we were able to continue. We moved over to Dubai because I think on a personal level, we realized that doing a festival, which is a complete CSR initiative, it was an unpaid for gig, it was a volunteer gig, and would we have liked it to become something that was sustainable, even for ourselves personally? Yes. But I think the sheer size and scale of programming that we did, it was very hard to want to even pay yourself,
No, absolutely.
So I think in that sense we decided let's go somewhere where we can create our own personal financial fund to sustain ourselves. And so for 6 years, every year we came home as visitors, because we were non-resident Canadians, and just worked our butts off all through the year, communicating from Dubai. At one point, we had a Vonage phone in Dubai when VoIP phones were permitted. So we managed 1 year with that, and then it was all email and
No, I hear you.
The question is a good one. Why did we discontinue after 2011? And I think at that point, we felt that for us to be able to improve what we do and to ensure that the quality of what we're programming gets better and better, we needed to get to another level of funding. We needed to get to another level, and I think rather than sort of peter out and become a festival that was just another, not just another festival, but if we weren't being able to do justice to our artists and therefore to the audience, then we figured there are others who are doing this. there should be. Let's make space for everybody.
I personally think that the venue had a lot to do with it. I think somewhere along the road, Harbourfront lost its way, because they stopped, the way they were earlier, the way they worked with us earlier. I'm saying us because I also think of myself as MMM person. So they lost their way too. They went into another thing where they saw the success of Masala Mehndi Masti and they thought it was because of them. It wasn't because of them. It was Masala Mehndi Masti was bringing the people in. So I think the institution itself also got too embroiled, the snake's eating its own skin, its own self. I think that's what happened. There were too many checks and balances which came in, and so it's a sad story and of Harbourfront, actually, because the way they went down, and they never recovered from that particular that freshness that it had when MMM was working with Harbourfront. But anyways, so I need to know your once you went to Dubai, I went to see the place which you built.
Did.
It was so exciting. Oh my God.
Walk you around the park personally, and yeah, I'd love to talk about that.
It was amazing. But tell me more about this. How did that happen? And how is it the thing doing nowadays?
No, I will. So when we moved here, I moved and I joined a big private education organization, which I did for about a year, but it didn't feed my soul. And we were actually coming back to Canada after a year and a half of living here. We moved, in 2005, 2007, we were ready to come home. And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and they were building theme parks. So they asked me if I'd be willing, because of my festival production experience and the festival, working at the CNE as a programmer and doing all sorts of other activations in Canada. I was asked if I would like to join a permanent theme park called Global Village, which was going to be a culture-based $1.5 billion theme park. So I joined that, and we hit about 8 months into it, and we hit that massive recession in 2008. So the actual project, we had spent $300 million on the infrastructure, on the programming. I had programmed 15 months of entertainment in music, theater, film, culinary arts from all over the world. It was one of those dream jobs that any programmer from anywhere would die to be a part of. So I was director of culture and entertainment. That permanent park ended up being stalled and never saw the light of day. But annually, there was the Global Village Fair or Fun Fair that happened every winter. So I was asked to take over the programming and cultural direction for that, which for 5 years was another wonderful experience. I produced 12,000 shows in 3 months every year, a minuscule budget of just $2-3 million for the entire duration. Yeah. But everything from stunt shows and cultural programming from all over the world to street entertainment, it was an absolute dream, and that is probably the most successful entertainment destination in the Middle East. 7 million visitors, wow. 6 months. Now it's a 6-month event, but it was absolutely enlightening and a brilliant opportunity for me. In fact, we produced the 12th Masala Mehndi Masti Festival at Global Village, yes, which was one international destination that we took the festival to. And we had Salim Suleiman, and we had Shweta Sobram, and then from Toronto we also brought Gurpreet Chana, yeah, and Mason back, and then we had SW Storm, yeah, Saima, our programming director. She flew out to be a part of that, to both produce the entertainment or program the entertainment and produce the show.
Yeah. So there's this one more thing, the people who work with MMM team, you guys trained them so well. Now all of them are so well adjusted in the entertainment industry. They're all doing so well in their own fields. So that's also a testament to the way you guys, you and Jyoti, worked hard with the team. You taught them your skills. You literally enabled them to make better lives for themselves in their own fields. So I on behalf of all of them and myself, thank you so much. You guys are amazing.
Oh,
And honestly, this is what the spirit is, that when you are an entrepreneur, you're not just there, you're preparing a next generation of people to take over, to do better than yourself. And I think that's the testament to your success as not only a programmer, as an organizer, but also as an entrepreneur. So really, hats off for that.
I think that was very critical, that we had the benefit of having volunteers and team members who wanted to be a part of it. So no one was being forced to, or had a gun to their head. And then because they were happy to be a part of it, they were happy to, we were happy to impart whatever we knew. And of course, there was trial and error, and we did things right, we did things wrong, we fixed them, and collectively we came up with better solutions. And it's wonderful to see how so many people have gone on, both team members, volunteers, and artists who were a part of the festival have gone on and have excelled in what they're doing.
Yeah. The whole project that you guys are doing there, Clint Valadares, the CEO of this Berkeley College, he was so impressed with everything that you're doing there. And then you went ahead and did the first Bollywood concert in Saudi Arabia, of all places. How did that happen, dude? How did that happen?
Honestly, it's been an astounding journey. After Global Village, I was then asked to head up entertainment for Bollywood Parks Dubai, which was the world's first Universal Studios-esque theme park based on Bollywood films. So I spent 4 years in the whole conceptualization, development, the creation of Bollywood parks with a wonderful team, belonged to the government. And we opened it. It was a multi-billion-dollar theme park. And like with all theme parks in a part of the world where theme parks are not the norm, it's going to take its time to establish and be recognized. But you came and saw what we did. I produced a $16 million theatrical musical with Wizcraft from India. We had $12 to $20 million rides, which we wrote the stories. We adapted movie IPs like.
I know, that was amazing. I mean, guys, when you go to Dubai for this ride, this is amazing. And you, Abhishek Mathur is right there as one of those guys. This picture is there, and this is the Sholay theme ride. Amazing. Abhishek took me there, and it was so much fun. But Abhishek, Saudi Arabia, wasn't it a big challenge to do the concert in Saudi Arabia?
Another wonderful story. They're very keen to change their way of life. I know we all have our own interpretations or perceptions of what's going on in Saudi, but I think the people at large, the citizens at large, do want to change. They also know financially that billions of dollars leave the country every year for, with their own citizens who travel overseas to be entertained. So let's open it up. So I actually was going back and forth with the General Entertainment Authority for quite a long time, just to just say, hey, I'm here, a step away in Dubai. If ever you need anything, I can be a part of anything. Let me know. And then finally, one day after, I think it was a year of being in touch on LinkedIn and emails and phone calls, they said, we're coming to Dubai. Can you take us for a walk around Bollywood parks? I said, come. So we met, and then things started to snowball. And so we're doing some festivals in different parts of the country. Would you be willing to program something Bollywood? Sure, it's right up my sleeve, up my alley. So we did 3 concerts there, including another Canadian, Jonita Gandhi.
Of course.
So always trying to fly the flag and get Canadians.
Excellent.
To be a part of whatever we're doing.
Yeah, so there's a huge contingent of Canadians right there in Dubai and all these places. What is the basic difference that you feel working in Canada or in Dubai? What is the difference? How do you feel? And considering that nowadays, with Black Lives Matter and with all these equity-driven initiatives and both funders and organizers and you know how do you think things are changing both in Canada, in Western world, as well as in Dubai?
I think the change here is slower in that sense. The recognition of these issues will take a little longer to trickle down and permeate. You can have these conversations with people from this part of the world, and many don't get it. There's this whole BLM versus ALM, and trying to help people understand where all of these issues factor into our daily lives, and how we need to be open to discussing them. I mean, I'm a part of Ina Roy from Montreal, who's friends with Arshad, Bollywood Blast. She and I put together some conversations online, and so many of us get it, and we believe in it, but it's having that discussion with those that don't, which is where we need to keep going. We need to keep pushing the envelope. But over here, you were asking me what is the difference in working on projects over here versus in Canada. I think because there are fewer precedents of what has happened over here in the arts, culture, entertainment, festival scene. They're willing to take more risks. There's more that entities, government agencies, corporate clients are willing to do to move faster, to leapfrog, and reach a level of production value, programming value, artistic programming that has taken us a lot longer in Canada because it's been more evolutionary over there.
Yeah.
So when we come back to Toronto, there's certain things that we see moving a lot slower than they have over here.
Yeah.
For us, in terms of our careers, in terms of our experiences, what we've been able to do over here, I don't think we would have been able to have done in Toronto. So I know it's a little selfish, but it's something to come back with and bring to Canada. As soon as we're ready to come back with those ideas, concepts.
So we look forward to that time, when you are going to plan and move back to your Canada, and we will be waiting for you to do that. But honestly, meanwhile, while you're there, you will be pleased to see the array of artists who now we have access to, who we would like you to present in Dubai, including the one who I'm going to interview next, who is my very dear friend, Oliver Rajamani.
About him, I know.
Rajamani is amazing, and I hope that one day you will be inviting him to Dubai to perform for you. But Abhishek, thank you so much, my love. It is so great to talk to you. And I am so excited for you because you continue to do things on South Asian platform, and that is very exciting for me, and that makes me feel not only me but lots of artists who feel relegated to the sides just because of the political situation that we feel in South Asia growing, and hopefully in these parts of the world we can bypass that and work together and hopefully do better things for South Asia as well. So thank you so much. God bless you, and happy Rakhi. Your Rakhi will be with me. So I listen. Thank you so much. So you look after yourself, and we will be talking next to our guest, our wonderful friend Oliver Rajamani. So thank you, and hello Oliver. Nice to see you.
Hi Asma. How are you?
I'm very well, Oliver. I'm looking at this brochure, which was our festival brochure for 2008, and you are our headliner for 2008 festival on Friday. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was such a,
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, beautiful memory from 2000.
Yeah, So tell me something. How are the things? How are you doing? How are you coping with the situation nowadays in Texas? Pretty bad with COVID.
Yeah, it's getting pretty bad, and people are still kind of. I mean, it's become so politicized, the whole mask thing and everything, that there are still people who are not, actually, there are people who don't even believe that it's real. They think it's a hoax.
I know.
And
It's unbelievable. I
yeah,
know.
so it's a little crazy, but yeah, we're keeping safe here and just pretty much staying home. And I've been doing some recordings at home, and doing online virtual interviews and things like that. So yeah, it's I mean, it's challenging, but I get to do things which I wouldn't have done before.
I know. So in terms of things that you are doing which you wouldn't have done before, what things come into that list?
Um, well, for example, I've been trying to learn this program, Pro Tools program of, it's a recording program for a long time. And I'm not much of a very technical person, but I bought it and it's been sitting there, and I was like, you know what, I got to learn how to do this, So I sat down, put my mind to it, and I learned how to do this technical stuff. So that's one. And one of the other things I haven't sometimes had time is painting, because I used to, paint a lot. And when I used to live in New York, and I had quite a lot of shows and stuff, and so this, COVID has given me the opportunity to get back into, painting, oil painting, and
How interesting. That's wonderful. Okay.
yeah,
So maybe next time when you are coming to perform for us, you are also bringing your artwork as a painting exhibition.
there you go.
Excellent. So Oliver, it's been such a long time, 2008. We are sitting in 2020, 12 years ago. I saw you first time performing at this incredible festival in Los Angeles, which was called Artwala. So
Yeah.
Artwala was really a beautiful idea about how not only artists but spoken word and painting and everything can be brought together, and artists put into a certain setup. So this is something actually which we are considering as a method to do in winter months when we cannot go out much. But tell me, in terms of creating music, over all these years and everything, what's the new stuff that you've been doing? I've heard a lot about the Flamenco India project that you were doing. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I've Flamenco India is one of the interesting things, but there's actually another interesting CD I released back in 2012, which is called Texas Gypsy Fire. And that was an amazing, very unique, very different from what I would usually do. And basically, I collaborated with a lot of Texas, like country and blues artists, from people like Willie Nelson, Eric Johnson, who's the master, rock guitar player, Edie Birkel, who's wife of Paul Simon, and people like that. So I collaborated with them and did this beautiful CD, and basically blending, kind of South Asian musical styles and Romani musical styles. Romani is Gypsy musical styles, which has its origin in South Asia, and taking all that and blending it with Americana, country, and blues and stuff, and a lot. I was singing a lot in English as well as other languages, and so that was amazing, interesting, kind of unique project, because no one's ever done stuff like that before. So it was kind of interesting. I kind of first. Some of my world music fans were just kind of like, "Why are you doing this?" And this is like, "Why are you?" And I felt like, we're living in a different I mean, I'm not living in India right now, you know. I mean, I've got to. We're living in a different part of the world, and yes, we carry our stuff along, but we change along the way, you know, and we have to kind of collaborate and adjust, and you know, that's how new things happen. For example, flamenco, coming to Flamenco India, my other project, you know, flamenco's history came out of oppression, and it came out of the blending of cultures, very similar to what's going on today in America. You know, people were in Spain at that time. There was an Inquisition where, you know, the Jews, the Muslims, and the Romani or Gypsies were being kicked out of the country, and they weren't allowed to stay there, and so a lot of them went and hid in caves and places like that, and that's kind of where flamenco comes out of, that culture.
Beautiful. I remember seeing the video that you had, and it is absolutely beautiful. But right now, what we are going to show our audience is a little bit of the video that you performed for Mosaic 2008. So we have a small clip. Let's watch that clip. Rikshan, can we watch that clip? My God, what a beautiful performance this was. I remember it so well. And the beautiful thing was that you were our first Tamil speaking artists, and there were people who came in and they were so surprised. They said, "Oh, we thought this was a Pakistani festival." So it was really good that, you know, we got you, and you attracted our crowd, non-South Asian crowds as well. So you brought in those crowds for us. So honestly, it was amazing. And then I got introduction to Murdangam, which I had never heard of before, never seen. And all these people were master in their arts and craft that you brought along with yourself. So since that time, what new music have you worked on? Of course, we're going to listen to a little bit of your project that you're doing, India, this India project as well. So
yeah, so primarily one of the main things I've I mentioned Texas Gypsy Fire, which was a collaboration with Americana artists, but the other thing I've been primarily doing, and I've been also working on a documentary film. It's called Flamenco India as well. And Flamenco India is basically, you know, it's not just a musical production or concert. It's also an educational program. We, you know, try to educate people on the history of Romani or Gypsy culture and where the Romani people came from, which is South Asia. And I've done a lot of work on that outside of just music as well, you know, working with Romani community and, you know, because a lot of Roma, they're trying to, you know, connect to their roots. And so they're trying to collaborate with artists from South Asia to bring that.
Can you give us a small show of that particular music?
Yeah, sure. So, I'll play you a song right now, and this is actually a traditional song. It's from the south of India, but I'm going to play it to you with flamenco chords and everything. Now, this is a pretty simple rumba style of flamenco. I mean, obviously in flamenco India, we do a lot more complicated stuff because there's dancing. We have Kathak dancers and flamenco dancers from Spain and so forth. But this is, here it goes.
How beautiful. So exciting. So lovely. Thank you for giving us the song. So yeah, this is Tamil. You're singing in Tamil. And it's such an amazing language. I find it so rich and it has such bass to it. It has such you don't have to feel an overlay of words or sounds in Tamil. It's all pure sound, very it's I can just explain it with my actions. I cannot explain it with
it's a very, I mean, it's one of the most ancient languages, so it has a very
300 alphabets,
something like that. I don't really know.
Wow, incredible. So tell me something. You do play so many other instruments, especially rabab and sarod and all. So what brought you into this movement, learning these string instruments? When did you realize that this was the way to go, that string instruments are your poison?
Well, so, growing up in India, I've had a very interesting kind of life. Most people kind of don't understand sometimes, why I do what I do. You know, for example, I collaborated with country artists, and people are like, "Why are you doing that? You're from India." So, I grew up in India, and I went. My grandmother was adopted by a British lady and raised in a beautiful in mountains called Cody Canal, and went to an American international school there. So it was a dormitory, kind of like kids stayed in dorms there. So it was a wealthy kind of school, but I had this opportunity. They provided a scholarship. It was kind of like a lottery for the local kids who couldn't afford to go to that school. And I was one of these lucky kids, and that schooling changed my whole life. So I got to learn Western music there. And then outside of school, I went to the very traditional, Indian music and culture and all that. And then after I finished school, I wasn't really sure what I was doing, and so I went up north to a village called Hoshangabad in Madhya Pradesh, and I lived there and in a farm, and I studied tabla with my guru and meditation, and we had to it was kind of like a Gurukula system, which is where you kind of stay with your guru, and the guru doesn't necessarily teach you lessons, but sometimes they even make you wash their dishes or whatever. So I used to wash his cows and everything, in the morning. And so I had this beautiful experience. And then, so I got to really immerse myself into village folk life. And I kind of grew up in that also, So, and then after that, I was part of a college called Friendsboro Program. It's a Quaker program. And they offered scholarships for kids, basically. The Quaker program focuses on the whole world being your classroom and not you going to a little campus or something. So they had a main campus in New York, and they had centers all over the world, and students could choose which center they wanted to go to. If you wanted to study, say, Middle Eastern music, they would send you. Like I went to Israel and stayed in Jerusalem. And studied about Romani people there, because they're called Dom. The Middle Eastern Gypsies are known as Dom. It's the same community which is found in India and Pakistan.
Yeah. Same name.
Yeah.
Dom.
And they speak a language called Domari, which is very ancient. And so they're the same people who migrated, hundreds of years ago there. And so I went and met them, and then studied Middle Eastern music and all that. And then I went to Greece. So basically, part of the answer to your question was, part of it was just the school I had joined, my education, and then just experiences. Once I left home, I was on my own, and I kind of, things just led me to, it was like I never had this thought I was going to become a musician. Like it just became that.
Which was the instrument that you really picked up at that time, and how did the progression on string instruments came about?
So originally I was playing percussion, so drums, like dumbek and tabla and stuff like that. But when I was little, my grandma bought me a guitar, and I used to fiddle around with it, but I never thought of myself as a guitar player necessarily. But when I went to New York, I started playing more and more guitar. And then when I started traveling, I was in Jerusalem and started listening to oud music. I don't know if you know what an oud is. It's a Middle Eastern instrument here, and I picked that up. And to be honest with you, I like whatever has happened in my life, I have no idea how. Like sometimes I ended up here just kind of doing what I do. I mean, it's, there was, basically what I'm saying is there was no goal or anything. I've just kind of floated along and just learned music and picked up stuff here and there and collaborated with artists. So
yeah, I've noticed you're a very spiritual person, and I find that you are accepting of everything. The music that you are making is very joining music, where there's no religious or territorial sentiment. It's all an effort to bring people together, and I find that so much in your music. Even when you were performing at Mosaic, I mean, there was this song which you had written, and you did some spoken word before that, and it was so nourishing. So how do you feel that spirituality, that feeling of being an international human being, a global citizen, how does that inform your music, your talent?
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting. It's been sometimes very challenging to be in that place, because all the things I'm doing musically, from including my life, which is so kind of different, people don't understand, and then my music, which is so different because there's no label to my music. I mean, I've called it Flamenco India for whatever it is, but again, it just comes down to just me, and my life, and it's challenging to be in that place, because you're caught in between lots of different worlds, and so ultimately the place where it really comes down to is just that kind of awareness of just being present here, and being here with the music wherever it guides you, and being here with people, and you don't know anything about what the future holds or anything, so it's but the important thing is always to be here, present, because that's the only place you can be. So and obviously the mind is always carrying you everywhere, and so the music becomes kind of one of those things where I can it's a very it's something that takes you away, kind of like it takes on
Transportation.
It transports you. But music also grounds me, It also keeps me here. And I do a lot of meditation with music. So, every time, sometimes what I do is when I'm at home, I play music for myself. And that's a very meditative place I go into, because every note I hit and I pay attention to it, I'm not just blindly hitting. So I listen to it and I let that sound die, and then the next note comes,
Tell you what, Subrata Bhattacharya is from Muscat. She has joined us and she is saying hi to you. And Anya McKenzie is there. Anita Mathur is there. Sunita Mathur is there. Shafali Mathur is here. So there are all these people who are listening to you talk right now.
Wow.
Would you play something for them right now?
Yeah, sure. Why don't I play my oud? And this is talking about Texas Gypsy Fire CD I did. Here's a song I wrote, and it kind of has, singing in a little bit of English and stuff like that. So here, you can just hear that. reaching El Paso. Oh, ni katna aise kul bhagavati kona. Oh, ni katna vachi ponna bhagavati kona.
Thank you so much. So beautiful. How many languages? You just sang this song in 4 languages.
Yeah.
So how many languages do you know?
Well, I speak Tamil, English, and I can have a conversation in Spanish slowly. So, so this was in So basically, sometimes what I do is I will take a song and I will write one sentence or phrase in English, and the next one would be in Spanish, and then the next one would be, say, in Tamil, and I might add in a word. Instead of using a Tamil word, just say, if you want to say, a bird, which is kuruvi in Tamil, and, chidiya or whatever in Hindi. And so instead of saying kuruvi in Tamil, I'll just put chidiya, or I will say pajaro in Spanish or something. So I play around a lot with words, and the reason is because a lot of my audiences are so mixed, So when they hear a word which sounds familiar to them, they connect to the music, And it's kind of just strange. And so sometimes I do that with some of my songs, not all my songs, but some songs I sing purely, say, in Tamil, or I also have some songs in Marwari, which is from Rajasthan, because I stayed there and worked with them.
I love that music. Those are beautiful songs of yours, and you performed one of those at Mosaic as well. I absolutely, because that has a very folkish touch. But I think all of your music that you create has this thing about it. So tell me something. When you worked with Gypsy Kings, how was that experience?
Oh, that was amazing. So I performed with them a few times, and I mean, they were, the first thing was they were just so kind of inviting, because, to them, it was like they were connecting back to their roots, and and so that was and that's been the case with most of Romani community I've worked with, is that when I work with them or I contact them, they're just so excited because it's not just about music anymore. It's more about, where they came from, and so yeah, it was an amazing experience, and they, I mean, just it was magical. I mean, when I played few times with them, they gave me center stage, and so, which was quite an amazing honor. It's
Fabulous. Fabulous. Now, you play santoor and rabab. Are there any artists of santoor and rabab, ustads, which inspire you, and whose work you admire?
Well, there are some rabab players I've listened to, but most of the rabab playing I have listened to is mainly, and that's what you were saying earlier just a while ago, is that my music is so folk based, So I've listened to a lot of folk traditions of rabab playing, and I don't have any one particular name as such, but a lot of times I, even on YouTube, when you go there are so many amazing artists from Afghanistan and Pakistan playing rabab, and it's all very folk stuff, and I just love the very rawness of this music, because it puts me in it's very grounding for me, but also takes you back into this kind of, because sometimes we live in this world of technology and all this stuff, and folk music is just it's just raw. It's just, there's nothing that can be bad about it or good about it or anything. It's just what it is,
Absolutely.
Because
such a holder of history and everything. So much material is just into it and juxtaposed on folk music.
Yeah, there's no. With folk music, you can't sit there and be like, oh, you just played a wrong note. Folk music is just inclusive of everything of life. There's nothing like, oh, you just played a wrong note, or you're supposed to play like this or anything. It's just what is of human beings, and that's what I love about folk music.
Yeah, I was looking at the messages, and of course our good friend Tushar Nardkat is commenting that both of us have a very interesting combination of wardrobe this time. So we were thinking on the same lines. Yeah. We are Zen. I said, tell me, talking about Zen, your wife is an amazing woman. She's a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
And very capable artist of pain relief and things like that. Now, how do you two work together? You guys both, I met you guys, so many years ago, and I saw the connection that you guys have. It's both spiritual, it's also very healing. So does Anita's healing power and your music, do you guys create something together in terms of these two sensibilities?
Oh, absolutely. So, Anita has quite a few CDs, which she has recorded on her own, called Hypnosis, and it's for sleep, people who can't sleep or smoking cessation or whatever, all these kind of things, and it has my music in it, and so we work together a lot in the studio, but we also do live things, because Anita's kind of the president of ASH, which is the American Society for Clinical Hypnosis and Psychotherapy right now. And so she does a lot of workshops everywhere, all over. And so she goes and presents for, kind of like I'm playing for, say, 1,000 people or something. She presents for 1,000 people, and she's the kind of star at that moment. And she does live hypnosis induction and stuff like that with my music and me playing. And so we work together a lot, but even at home, there's a certain, it's not just that she's a therapist, she also comes from a musical family because her father was a full-time musician in Germany, and so she understands what a musician's life is, and not just a life, but also a musician's mind, because it's very different than just someone who wakes up and has a 9 to 5 job, And so in that way, I think when I'm playing something or whatever, she's able to understand not just the life and the music, but also the mentality of things and all that, So yeah, there's a huge, kind of crisscrossing of things.
So Anju Malhotra is there she's loving this talk and she loves folk music. So maybe we can have something on rubab from you. There was this Rajasthani thing that you did. Something.
The Rajasthani thing.
Or anything you want.
I have a song on the guitar from Rajasthan, but this one is an instrumental. I'll play you an instrumental.
All right.
Oh, by the way, this is a very interesting rabab. So, I was touring last year, and I had a rabab, beautiful rabab from Afghanistan, and American Airlines, they broke it, and they didn't want to pay me for it, so I was so upset. But it ended up to be a good thing because I got in touch with one of the most legendary families of rabab makers in Afghanistan, and they made this rabab for me, and the interesting thing about this rabab, so they named it Rajamani rabab.
Oh, how lovely! Very interesting.
And the reason is because there's a historical kind of change in this rabab. Usually rababs have three main playing strings. That's the tradition for hundreds of years, but because I play so many notes and I play guitar and so with three strings I felt kind of a little restricted. So I asked them to add an extra string for me, which is a big thing to add as extra string because it changes the whole kind of structure of the instrument. So they added that instrument, and now I can play a little more notes.
Variations.
Octave and stuff like that. So anyway, this is a very special custom-made rabab for me.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this story.
Yeah.
Bravo. Thank you so much. So lovely. It's really somehow when I listen to Rubab, I can only think of snow-capped mountains because it's a musical instrument from north of Pakistan, from Afghanistan, and that's exactly the image that comes to my mind. So thank you very much for such a great recall. And Oliver, what are the plans for future? What are you planning to do? Any next project that you are very excited about other than your painting?
Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, I was supposed to release a movie this year, a documentary, and which I've been working on for the past about 8 years or so. And it's a beautiful, beautiful, colorful, rich documentary on the Romani culture, but a lot more. So it starts off in south of India, and it's kind of I've worked with scholars. There's a lot of interviews with Romani scholars, musical artists, really amazing gypsy musical artists. I've worked with people in the genetic field who have traced the roots and all that. So it's amazing. So basically, it starts the Romani people migrated out of northwestern India, but their origins originally come from the southern part of India as a people. So they migrated from there, So the movie shows the journey of this.
So how far along are you with the post-production?
Pretty much done. The last thing I was supposed to do this year was I was supposed to go to Egypt, and I was supposed to do the last filming of this the Dome community. In Egypt, and like a lot of people don't know, but the Dome community in Middle East were one of the communities very responsible for what we know today as belly dance. Because in those communities, like the women weren't allowed to dance and stuff. So the Romani community the women were the ones who danced. And so a lot of what we know today is belly dance was carried on in that community. So there's a very famous family there called the Mazen family, who are Dome community. And so I was supposed to go and interview them and video them for this movie, but and then COVID happened, so it's been canceled. So it's pretty much at the very end. The movie.
All right. I hope that we'll get an opportunity to watch the film and show it on our own film festival, MISAF, as well, because this sounds so exciting, and hopefully you'll be able to join us for that film screening. Meanwhile, Oliver, I have to thank you for your time. Thank you so much for giving us such a great recall on your participation as our headliner for 2008. And I hope that soon in future you will come and perform with us again at Mosaic Festival. I thank you so much. And please give my love to Anita and look after yourself. So thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Asma. Thank you so much. And again, it's always great to see you. And I had so much fun at the festival when we played. It was, what a great festival it was, seeing all those artists and who also performed. And it was such I'm really glad you're going on with this festival because I think it's very important.
Thank you so much. This is the 15th anniversary issue, and we are very grateful to all our artists who have participated in all these 14 years. And I would like to thank you for being there with us. I would like to thank all our sponsors, the Greenwich Health Products and Laziz Shawarma, our presenting partner, TD Financial Group, and also Canada Arts Council, Ontario Arts Council, City of Mississauga, Heritage Canada, Factor Canada, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you for being with us for TD Mosaic Noon Talks. Our next guest is the amazing, wonderful Rekha Bharadwaj. I will be talking to her on Thursday, so please don't forget to join me and send your questions in if there are some burning questions and requests, and we will talk to her. And meanwhile, thank you very much, Abhishek Mathur and Oliver Rajamani, for being our guests today. And I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Music brings us together, even when we're apart. That's why we support Canadian musicians, festivals, and award shows. It's just one of the ways TD's Ready commitment helps build a more inclusive tomorrow.